So this is round 3 of the 29th Singapore Open. I'm playing black against null space. Null space is also one of the stronger players, up and coming players in Singapore. So right now I'm starting off with cat, mainly because recently I've been just trying to limit to cat openings and then headed towards tiger opening. So let's see what he plays. So let's go with the usual tiger opening. Tiger many blacks over here, and so now space has elected to go for central roles bill, which is definitely one of the safer choices to play. The book opening would then be playing to c5, but f3 is actually one of the variations that is starting to become quite popular among Japanese players because of the continuation behind in terms of the end game. So instead of just playing a normal book move against a player who is also pretty good at book openings, so let's just try the Japanese variation over here. So over here, yes, white has still in book and played the correct move. A few options over here will be to group into the center and just dismiss or just ignore this at the moment, or if not, we can just jump in the center over here, but allow white to actually go to this move, which is quiet for him. Preventing wouldn't work here because black and white, and then it will become very costly for black to prevent. So c1 over here might be an option to play for black as well to head towards the edge, but c1 and white jumping right in would present a problem for black for sure, because white also controls this mini diagonal. That would be a very important centralizing axis. So let's just regroup to the center over here and see how that plays out. So the essence of this variation is actually to anticipate white jumping into the center and then black headed to the edge over here. So I'll just go ahead with that move. The variation actually leads white into capturing the edge or just trying to feed the edge to white. So white wouldn't jump in here because this becomes a balanceable 5-sided edge. So instead, yep, he'll defend the edge and I'll feed the edge. So this is quite a fairly book variation for the Japanese. And I am expecting white to actually capture the edge, which is the book move, because if he doesn't and plays somewhere else, I'll capture the edge and he has to play one more move out and he loses a total of 2 tempos. So usually the problem with being presented with access to actually capture the edge would be a bit of a dilemma of whether to capture. On one side, you don't want to establish that unbalanced edge, being afraid of being attacked from the back in the future. For example, if somebody fed you the corner and they can wedge in between and just attack to the other corner. But on the flip side, if you don't capture the edge, you'll lose the tempo. So right now he's played to the tempo, which is the book move. So usually the Japanese variant either goes this way into the center, or it will just take the edge and just pick out moves to the sides over here. So for this case, I'll go for the edge. Both, I believe, should be around maybe -4, thereabouts, but maybe playing towards the edge gives an opportunity to try to confuse the opponent a bit more. If white were to continue to the edge over here, then maybe black could just continue with this move or this move, either one. So right now he's cut through and then jumping into the center, selecting the square with this over this might be slightly better because you only flip one this in one direction as opposed to 2 this in 2 different directions. So let's just go with this centralizing move and expecting that white would actually just cut back into the center. Okay, so white really did cut back into the center. So one way is to just jump across here and feed him this, and then having white with this mini diagonal would allow me to play a quiet move, maybe to a4. So black, white, black maybe. Or I could just go to the edge over here, but black, maybe white will go here. So controlling this might be important because white is now threatening to take this move, which is fairly nice for white to actually just cut through into the center. So another option would be to play here and black, white, and maybe black, but white continues here, and this becomes a poison move. So one other option would be this, would be just to take this move, but that would give white an easy move here. So let's just try here. Or another option would be to play to the edge here, secure this disc to d7, allow white to play over here, and then jump in over here for consecutive moves for b6 and b5. Not exactly too sure whether black, and white would work. So white, black, and white, maybe it could still continue. But if black were to play here, white might jump in here. So let's just go with b6 for the moment, just to defend this 6th row over here and all the relevant accesses. So right now I am anticipating that white would jump in to b6 and centralize, so the continuation move would probably be to play a4. But white, black, and maybe white would then create a difficult situation for black to continue, because white will threaten to secure this edge onto the left, and at the same time still have one more move to play to a7 using the disc on b6. So yep, so white did play this move. If I were to ignore it and play around this square, things would become even more difficult, because white can control and play over here, and all the moves over here to the left are still poisoned from me. So right now a4 seems essential. So a4's weakness would probably be white playing a6, which I am expecting him to not miss this move. Yeah, so he did play a6, and now the game becomes a little bit more difficult for black. Not too sure whether he's still in book, but yeah, one option would be to play in here, feed him the edge, and go to the x square, and then worry about, just form that 3 square to try to cover parity in the future, and then hope for the best with just one move over here to play with. Another option would be to capture the edge or make moves around here, just flipping this d7 disc. But that would then mean that white would just squeeze in over here and maybe force me to play this, or either capture the edge, which also becomes equally difficult. I think the game is more tricky if I feed the edge, so let's go with a5 first to feed the edge and see whether he does take it. So again, approaching the edge, if he doesn't take the edge, he would then have to play one more move outside, let's say c8. And if I were to capture the edge, he doesn't have a direct access to play maybe a2. So he would have to play one more move to the outside of the group of the disc. So, and if he establishes c8, this would be poison as well. So he has to take, almost guaranteed to take the edge. And if he takes the edge, he might be targeting to just form that 5-sided balance edge, which is a strong edge for him at this point in time. So we want to jump into the x square to just prevent him from taking a7. Even though the x square gives up the corner, it's probably looking like my best bet at the moment. But I think overall black should be losing. So over here he has played e7 to try to get that access to the corner, I guess. So right now, probably a quick way to just centralize would be to play f6 over here, and hopefully try to close out the edge over here. So if he takes the corner, I'll jump in, and then he'll go here, and then I'll jump in, and then he'll close out the edge. And then just try to work with the established poison. So it's more of trading secured discs or stable discs for white to the lower left, at the same time just trying to exchange that for mobility and try to survive on the right. And hopefully this 3 square over here would help me overcome parity and somehow pay off in the end. So right now it's more likely than not that he'll play this. Yep. So this is a very strong move for white because it secures this entire B column, which is quite solid. It prevents black from capturing any of this along the B column, which might probably affect the final result pretty much. So if I play here, it's meant to, although it's counterintuitive in general to just play towards your opponent's strength, but at the same time, it's also important to just remove his spare move towards his edge. So if I play here, at least he wouldn't be able to play to E8, which would give me D8. So if I play to C8, he's forced to make the D8 move. But again, this diagonal, this mini diagonal that he's controlling is very strong. So it's going to be quite difficult to actually just sort of try to outmaneuver him over here in this situation. So over here, one option would be to actually choose to just jump out here to just create that excess back here. But now the situation seems a bit more challenging because if I do that, black, white, I wouldn't have any continuation move over here to F8, and all the moves on the C square and X square here doesn't create more moves for me, and then I'll be forced back into the parity move. So it might be actually better to just sort of just try to access the X square here first instead of going for this move just for this 4 discs that may not actually help me in the end. So if I just go for mobility instead of trying to secure more stable discs along the B column, I'll probably consider to play B2 over here to just try to fight for a little bit more mobility. But of course, if he continues to move towards the strength of the board for white, he would just go for maybe G6 and just continue to progress this way down, forcing me to make moves to the bottom, which will then consolidate his strength to this corner and also the whole chunk of this disc on the lower left corner to just try to extend his influence across the board. So, yep, I am expecting G6 to follow. So usually G6 would then result in maybe feeding G5 and then followed by H5. Then he would effectively control this mini diagonal. Okay, so he didn't play that move. Probably that means I have a little bit of maybe breathing space, I hope. So if I played this would be a very easy move for him to play. So now he's just trying to go for this quick and easy move over here. So probably poisoning it would be an option. So let's go with G5 to make just this move slightly less attractive. And if he goes towards G4, maybe we can reconsider this option over here. But bear in mind again that he's controlling this mini diagonal. Okay, so right now there's an option for him to just cross back in, so maybe I could jump in over here. Another option would be to approach the edge and let him take this and just try to create more moves to the edge. But over here, if I were to play this and he goes in here and I play to the edge, he would still have one more move down below. So being a bit afraid of that continuation, I might have to do this. But if black goes here, white goes here, and he still has control of this diagonal, so things become very difficult for me. So this control of diagonal is very strong for white, but it could also be a double-sided double-edged sword for him as well. If white goes here in the future, I can probably look for a swindle to play here and here consecutively. But right now, I have to try to deal with the mobility to the right. So retaining mobility might be slightly better over here. Black, white, black perhaps, and white, black, and white. So I can just aim for the diagonal. We want to control this balanced edge. So that is a possible continuation.